Hello, 6193. This is Travis with my presentation of Please by Jericho Brown. I am getting over a cold, so I ask you to bear with me if I cough in your ear or if my voice is a little low or hoarse. Track 1, Lush Life. The woman with the microphone sings to hurt you, to see you shake your head. The mic may as well be a leather belt. You drive to the center of the town to be whipped by a woman's voice. You can't tell the difference between a leather belt and a lover's tongue. A lover's tongue might call you bitch, term of endearment where you come from. The kind of compliment preceded by the word sing in certain nightclubs. A lush little tongue you have. You can yell, sing bitch, and I love you, with a shot of Patron at the end of each phrase, from the same bar stool every Saturday night, but you can't remember your father's belt without shaking your head. That's what satisfies her, the woman with the microphone. She does not mean to entertain you, and neither do I. Speak to me in a lover's tongue. Call me your bitch, and I'll sing the whole night long. Track 5, Summertime, as performed by Janis Joplin. God's got his eye on me, but I ain't a sparrow. I'm more like a lawnmower. No, a chainsaw. Anything that might mangle each manicured lawn in Port Arthur. A place I wouldn't return to if the mayor offered me every ounce of oil my daddy cans at the refinery. My voice, ain't sweet. Nothing nice about it. It won't fly even with Jesus watching. I don't believe in Jesus. The Baxter boys climbed a tree just to throw persimmons at me. The good and perfect gifts from above hit like lightning, leave bruises. So I lied. I believe, but I don't think God likes me. The girls in the locker room slapped dirty pads across my face. They called me bitch, but I never bit back. I ain't a dog. Chainsaw, I say. My voice hacks at you. I bet I tear my throat. I try so hard to sound jagged. I get high and say one thing so many times, like Willie Baker, who worked across the street. I saw some kids whip him with a belt while he repeated, please. School out, summertime, and the living lashed. Mama said I should be thankful that the town's worse to colors than they are to me, that I'd grow out of my acne. God must love Willie Baker. All that leather and still a please that sounds like music. See, I wouldn't know a sparrow from a mockingbird. The band plays. I just belt out, please. This tune ain't half the blues. I should be thankful. I get high and moan like a lawnmower, so nobody notices I'm such an ugly girl. I'm such an ugly girl. I try to sing like a man boys call boy. I turn my face to God. I pray. I wish I could pour oil on everything green in Port Arthur. And pause. From bed to dresser drawer, and all while rolling latex down, he'd whistle, and I felt daily at first, a chore, a long walk without trees. If anyone, I should have known. I who hate for people to comment that I must be happy just because they hear me hum. I want to ask if they ever heard of slavery. The work song. The best music is made of subtraction. The singer seeks an exit from the scarred body and opens his mouth trying to get out. Or at least this is how I came to understand Willie whistling his way into me. What was my last name? Did he remember? Had I said? We both wanted to be rid of desire, how it made even the shower a rigorous experience. It driving my coughing Corolla across Highway 90 at the darkest time of morning. It opening his dead-bolted door. Us splayed as if for punishment at every corner of the carpet. Then pause for the condom. Elastic ache against death, heavy in his hand. And something our fingernails couldn't reach, itching out a song. He was not content. He was not bored. If I had known the location of my own runaway breath, I too would have found a blues. Poor Willie, whistling around my last name, wrapping his gift in safety. Poor me, thinking if the man moves inside me, I must be empty. If I hide inside the man, I must be cold. So I selected these poems more to demonstrate Brown's range and to highlight major themes of the collection than I did for their placement within the collection. There's a whole lot that I could say about this book. It provides a glimpse into life as a gay black man in the South. It tells the story of the relationship between a son and his abusive father, as well as the relationship between the father and the mother. This book is the blues. It gives the reader an insight into the why underneath the blues, the pain that makes music hurt and heal. It tells the story of a body. The poems reach a scar, evidence of some past wound or impact. This book is really 12 rounds with a mean-ass Duende. There's plenty of blood. The style is predominantly free verse, and Brown doesn't really do much in the way of tricks with form or field composition or anything like that. There's a couple of them, but for the most part, Brown's poems are direct as a punch. All one stanza, left arranged. The result of this is that when he does add a space in the middle of a line or a seam, or if he alternates the left justification and has like a hanging indent after each one, there's a very specific purpose. It's intentional. There's no mistaking it. And it usually influences the poem's rhythm more than anything else. Music is vitally important in this collection. Almost every poem contains some reference to music or singing or specific artists. It even affects the arrangement of the collection. The book is divided into 4 sections. Each one's a button on a CD player. There's repeat, pause, power, and stop. Repeat, pause, and power contain poems, and stop contains liner notes, which is a brief history of the music and the musicians that Brown references throughout the text. Like musician, Jericho Brown has serious range. It was really difficult to decide which poems to include. That actually took me longer, I think, than anything else, because I kept going back and forth. There's so many themes and symbols that I could talk about in this collection. I could probably go on for well beyond the 15 minutes. Just to name a few, you got music, obviously, abuse, sex, love, dominance and submission, relationship, body, race. It's hard to decide where to focus. I'm going to mainly focus on just these 2. Music. It's kind of impossible to consider this text without entering into a discussion of music. So I figured we'd start there. For Brown, it seems that pain and then the transmutation of that pain into beauty is essential to music. This is a sort of transcendence that occupies Brown, almost to the point of obsession. In track 1, Lush Life, he writes, "You drive to the center of town to be whipped by a woman's voice." And in track 5, Summertime, the speaker's voice is a chainsaw assay. My voice hacks at you. But where Brown really, I think, states his belief in the power that music holds is in pause, when he says the best music is made of subtraction. The singer seeks an exit from the scarred body and opens his mouth trying to get out. Within these examples, you'll also see that there is a tie to the other theme that I want to talk about a little bit, which is violence in the body. There's a violence in these poems. Just in those examples, we are whipped and hacked by voices. The body is scarred. One thing that I want to note here, it's important, is that the speaker remains consistent throughout this entire collection. Even in track 5, Summertime, when it's sort of in Janis Joplin's voice, that seems like an exercise, an imagination exercise of the speaker that we inhabit throughout kind of the entirety of the collection. And this seems important as like the story builds. Some of the poems directly address the speaker's abuse at his father's hands. It was hard to decide, whether to really take one of those and bring it in. And then this trauma, it carries into his relationship with the men in his life. In track 1, he says, "You can't tell the difference between a leather belt and a lover's tongue." This belt, the father's belt, is one of those symbols, and it gets raised again and again in the collection, as well as hands, especially his father's hands. Willie Baker in Summertime is whipped with a leather belt as he begs again and again, "Please." We're told that each please sounds like music. Later, the speaker and another Willie are splayed as if for punishment before they have sex and pause. I feel like I could go on and on. It's beautiful in the same way that a great arrangement of music is. There's a lot going on, and he weaves it together really well. I feel like I'm shortchanging the book, but time's running out, so let's talk about craft. Two elements of craft that I would like to really bring into my own work, and that I work to some extent, but I've gotten lessons in how to do this even better, or to improve, is the casual conversational tone that Jericho Brown has. There's this southern voice, and it's something that I've been interested in engaging with since I read Sela Satterstrom. I'm from the South, but I kind of fought not to have the accent, and now I'd like to access it a little bit and play around with that, because there's a certain beauty to the sound of it. It's really clear in Summertime where he says, "My voice, ain't sweet. Nothing nice about it. It won't fly even with Jesus watching." And then they called me bitch, but I never bit back. I ain't a dog. And then you can find it a little more subtly in Pause, where he says, "I felt daily at first a chore, a long walk without trees." The subtlety keeps it from becoming caricature, which is very easy to do, I think, when you're taking on these conversational tones. It's more a matter of rhythm and syntax than diction. And this consistency of the speaker's voice that I mentioned earlier is actually I think, essential, because it gives time for the development of this voice over multiple poems. And then the other thing is, again, it's a focus that I have, which is just the sort of brutality and inflating truth that Jericho Brown approaches, brings to his work. The violence and trauma, which I played with in my very first poem for the class, but plan to continue. And Jericho Brown gives a really great example of how to stay with an idea or a scene as it becomes unpleasant. And that can be telling a reader to call me your bitch, or repeating please over and over again when it's clearly been associated with a man being beaten. These things are unpleasant, and I think also the vulnerability in the last lines of Pause is impressive. Poor me, thinking if the man moves inside me, I must be empty. If I hide inside the man, I must be cold. So what I really want to take from Please and Jericho Brown's work is to resist the urge to sugarcoat. Don't pretty it up if it ain't pretty. So that's my presentation. Recommend this book to all of you. Thank you for your time, and have a great day.